All right, good morning. We'll go ahead and get started. If you get hungry in the middle, please get up and grab some food. There's way too much. Grab some on the way out. Welcome to our grade 3 and 4 immersion parent coffee. It's good to see all of you. I do this every time. Okay. Here is our overview of our session. We're gathering together to engage with parents to give you some updates about what's happening in our immersion program. And our why is, like in our strategic purpose, we want to make sure our students are experiencing joy and purpose in our immersion program. So here are a few things that we're going to talk about. We'll do a warm-up activity. We'll talk about our grade 4 and 5 structure. We'll talk about world language class and a bit about the capstone pilot trip. And there'll be time for questions and reflections at the end. All of you are familiar with this. This is our strategic direction at SAS. All we do is under this, under joy and purpose. And here's our learning aspirations and our core values. And so we always like to start with this because this dictates why we do what we do. And so I know we have lots of different people in the room. You come with different perspectives. So I just want to name that some of you are in here because you're a reflector. You want to reflect on the program, reflect on how kids are learning the language. We may have some activists in the room thinking about ways you might want to change the program. And some of you are pragmatists. You're just like, tell me the information, right? And some of you might be theorists wondering, what is the academic theories that back this up? So we are a diverse group of people, and I just want to be able to name that. Here's our community norms. You are all here because you're coming to the source, wanting to hear about the updates, wanting to hear information. Our other norms are we contribute positively and productively, refraining from discrimination, sharing accurate information. I will be sharing the slide deck as well as the recording after, right? As any changes happen, it's always good to come back to come back to the source and come back to accurate information sharing. So if any of your friends have questions, please direct them to me, assuming positive intent. And we're always centering the student experience because we are here for students. We're here for them to learn and feel enjoyment as they learn. As we keep your students at the center, this is some things that educators think about, right? We want to make sure we're using a strengths-based approach to where students are at, okay? You may be sharing some things about your student today, right? Or in other conversations. We just ask that whenever you hear any information, you're respecting not only your child's privacy, but the privacy of other children. And we always honor the growth process. So to start us off, I'd like us to think about this question. What was a favorite school experience you had as a student? And why was it memorable or meaningful to you? Take a second to think. I know it's a really long time ago for most of us in this room. But if you could have a think and turn to someone next to you or make a group of 3, we have a few minutes to share what was a favorite school experience you had. It sounds like most of us had something memorable to talk about. I heard school trips, I heard friendships, I heard special events. And the reason I wanted to start with this activity is because in addition to our strategic direction, there are also 3 areas that educators often think about, think about ways to do better. And these are the areas of captivate, care, and challenge, right? So as we think about our immersion program, we're more than just a language program. We're a holistic program in the elementary school. And so we hope to create activities and experiences that your students feel captivated by, cared for, and things that also challenge them. So as we delve into some of the things that are upcoming for this next school year, I wanted to remind us that we are in the middle of a immersion review. This is, the review process is a process that all programs at SAS go through. And it just helps us reflect, think about strengths and opportunities so that we ensure that we can continue to offer an excellent educational experience for our students. So throughout this year, we have been meeting as a school team of many different stakeholders, We've had student focus groups, parent focus groups, just examining the current structures and reflections. At the end of the school year, we'll have some recommendations that we will be sharing with families. And then already some of the recommendations have been implemented and we'll continue to implement in a pace that works well for educators and students in the next several years. So, how many of you are in here as third grade parents? And then fourth grade parents? Okay, so most of you are new to the fourth, fifth grade structure. As you know, in our current third grade structure, we have 60% of instruction in Chinese, 40% in English. When we move to fourth and fifth grade, we move into a 50-50 model. And what that just means is that students now get 50% of their instruction in Chinese, 50% in English. And this is one way, while still teaching bilingual biliteracy skills, that students are preparing for middle school, where more instruction is in English. And so for the fourth, fifth grade year next school year, we have, some of you are familiar with Ms. Sheng. She is our current fourth grade teacher. She will be shifting the model so that will be teaching math for fourth graders and fifth graders. Kelly Hannon, who is our current curriculum coordinator in our Office of Learning at SAS, will be stepping into the fourth and fifth grade ELA teacher role. Ms. Sheng will also be, along with the fourth grade Chinese teacher, be a fourth grade homeroom teacher, and Ms. Kelly will be the fifth grade homeroom teacher along with our fifth grade Chinese teacher. Hi, Ms. Kelly. She just stepped in. Great timing. Here is a sample schedule, how it's divided up. Let's take a second to look at that. We will have alternating days of morning meeting. Morning meeting is a really crucial time where students come together. They work on building their social-emotional skills, talking through ways to solve conflict, talking through things, thinking about their growth mindset, and so forth. And so thinking about those skills, how do students bridge the ways they do that in English and Chinese? So we have alternating days for that. The days also end with a closing circle where they end with thinking about and reflecting on their day in the learning. So what do you expect? 2 dedicated homeroom teachers for each grade, morning meeting, closing circle. The ELA and math teachers will, because students will have the same teacher, ELA and math teachers from grade 4 and 5, it provides some continuity for students, right? And also being mindful that our immersion teachers actually hold a bigger workload than non-immersion teachers. As you know, especially in the 4th grade, 5th grade structure, they are now seeing 4 cohorts of students. And so when you have a question, just think about what kind of question is it, right? And who's the best person to ask it. Any general student information, hey, my kid is going to be not taking the bus home today, that would still be a homeroom teacher connection. Of course, if it's something pressing or immediate or not like an emergency, but something important to know, teachers will respond as soon as they can. But in general, we ask that there's a 24 to 72 hour email response time because the teacher's priority is to plan with their other teachers and to teach students. They only have 2 blocks of prep time, and most of that time is used to utilize co-planning with others. And so generally for the school, we say 24 to 48, but just being mindful for 4th and 5th grade because there are more email responses they might have to respond to, it might take up to 72 hours. All right. Another thing we're going to talk about is entry into Chinese world language class. So to give a little framing, currently, our grade 4 and 5 immersion students, they have a foundational skills course that is taught by a teacher named Liu Laoshi, and she's our foundational skills teacher. So in part of our review process, foundational skills is actually something that we have named as something that's super important. It is being taught currently, but we're just making sure it's totally aligned across the immersion program. It's something that the Chinese immersion teacher will be embedding in their Chinese literacy instruction. And so What this means is we also notice a few things, opportunities, as we thought about the possibility of immersion students entering world language class. And these are our three main reasons. First, to enhance social language vocabulary and experiences. So the immersion program is, yes, very language heavy, but everything we do is based in content. So our kids are really strong at science vocabulary, right? Social studies, math vocabulary, right? And so one thing that we realized, hey, there's an opportunity for students to actually develop more of that social language skill. To also increase interaction of non-immersion students, another thing that we named is where are there more opportunities in our school day where immersion is a very special program, right? Our kids know each other really well, but they're going to go to middle school soon and they're going to be mixed with the larger group. So how do we create little pockets of opportunity where they can start getting to know other friends outside of immersion? So our world language block opens up that opportunity where some world language classes may have students who are not in the immersion program join. And to also support that transition into middle school, especially as we think of the immersion program shifting into more of a world language pathway in middle school. So those are our three main reasons. And I'm going to hand it off to our OOL team to talk more about what that looks like.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Amy Guile. I'm our Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, and I have the privilege of supporting and overseeing our director, Delinda Wu, who runs our World Language Program. And so we wanted to share with you the World Language courses that will likely be where our students coming up to 4th and 5th grade will be placed based on their language proficiencies. They will fall in one of these four places, more than likely. Our third year of intermediate low, intermediate mid, intermediate high, and it'll be year one this first year, possibly year two the next year if they're a fourth grader, or our Chinese language arts course that's really for our first language or mother tongue Chinese speakers. So we're going to tell you a little bit about what each of those courses look like. The way that we'll determine where students are going to be placed is each of these courses has a very clear set of targets that students need to meet in the Chinese language to enter them. And so our Office of Learning team will sit with the Chinese immersion teachers to go through those skill sets and determine the best placements for your children. The courses, I'll give you a little description of the courses. The intermediate low year 3 is really for our students who may have still have some limited communication tasks. They'll be working on short, simple sentences, basic information, basic vocabulary, and we know that while they may have some errors in their grammar, we're really working to tighten that up. And so in those courses, they have these 4 units of study where they design their ideal school, they engage in language around family culture, they take a trip to China, and they get to have some engagement around celebrities. Our intermediate mid-course is a deep dive into Beijing. So they spend the year learning all about Beijing. And this is where students' language skills are a little higher. They're actually able to keep and sustain more language on a given topic. They can string sentences together. And while they may have an occasional error, we see a lot less of that. And so we think this could actually be really cool for our students who do this, knowing that the adventure journey at the end of grade 5 is Beijing. So it could be a nice connection for their pre-learning. And then this additional course is intermediate high. We'll offer year 1 next year. If they're a 4th grader that gets placed in year 1 next year, they'll take year 2 in grade 5. And in this course, we have a real dive into globalization and cultural expansion. And so the first unit is about understanding the difference between urban and rural life and really being able to look back into the dynasties and learn all about housing and structures and architecture. The digital me is really learning about how to be digitally safe in the language of Chinese. The globalization in me is an opportunity for students to see the interconnectedness and traditions across cultures. So it's a perfect time of year, that's Chinese New Year. they'll learn and study Chinese New Year, but think about how is New Year celebrated across multiple cultures. So they're really expanding the breadth of the vocabulary that they have in Chinese. And we think the last one's going to be a really fun unit for students. They're going to study fashion and think about how the innovation drives transformation, and they can study how there's influences from all around the world, but in particular in the Asian peninsula around culture and fashion. And then I'm going to let Delinda share this last course, and then she'll share a little bit about pathways.
Thank you, Amy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Delinda. I'm the Director of World Language at SAS. 大家好，我的中文名字叫武丹吕，我是世界语包括中文、西班牙语、法语的总监。那么现在呢，有跟大家分享一下我们的世界语课程，特别尤其是中文这个部分。Okay, that used to be we have a name called Neonative. This year we're going to revamp our course and track. The new name for Neonative will be Chinese language art. We will create a new track for students to acquire their primary social language and initial literacy development in Chinese. This track actually created for students use language. Actually, they are at home. Fluent speaker and have a strong foundation in reading and writing. The pathway offers opportunity for students to engage both classical and modern Chinese literature and foster their deep appreciation of the language and art and the culture and heritage. And you not only to acquire the language for communication purpose, but they are also to analyzing, responding, producing, performing, refine the language so that they can refine their social, aesthetic, and cultural literacy. So basically this course is not only about communication, but also very strong focus on literacy, on literature, on analysis. So as Amy shared with you, with next year when your kids have 45 minutes a day to moving to the world language track, and some of them were moving to intermediate high, some of them intermediate, and some of them will become to the track of the Chinese language art. In order to give you an overview of the K-12 pathway, I would like to share with you the middle school pathway and the high school world language pathway. As I shared at the beginning, this year we revamped the course and are aiming to leveraging the quality of all our world language course. So we purposely to create 3 pathways. The first pathway is the Chinese language art. As I shared with you, that is for neonative students. The learning for the purpose of literacy, for the purpose of appreciation of language. And we also remain the traditional pathway is learning Chinese as additional language. And aiming for students can acquire the proficiency like advanced, like AP Chinese literacy when they are entering high school. And we also create a purposely for your kids a unique pathway called Chinese language acquisition and literacy. For this course, you are learning Chinese for communication, but also you're learning Chinese for the purpose of academic language, for acquire their language and their skills for social study, for chemistry, and for science, so on and so forth. So this is for social language. That is for literacy and appreciation. And this track for your kids is mainly about learning academic language. So you can see in the high school, when you're a student in the high school, you have Advanced 1, Advanced 2, 82, 83 course that are streamlined with immersion in the elementary school. The 81 courses are higher. The proficiency are higher than the AP Chinese. This is the traditional one. We're aiming for the AP Chinese proficiency, which is the intermediate high level. But however, we are designing the course for your kids when they enter into high school. They're aiming advanced proficiency course. Okay? So this is also the neonative track. When entering high school, we offer course like 80 Chinese media and society study, 80 Chinese literature, and 80 Chinese history. Okay, so this give you an overview what is the pathway would be look like. And if you have any question, please welcome to reach out to me or Amy in Office Learning or Shirley in the elementary school. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to shift gears a little bit, continuing to think about ways your students will be challenged, captivate, and cared for. So some of you might have heard some rumblings about this capstone trip. So a little background. Capstone trips are actually quite common in immersion programs internationally across the US. It's kind of a way for students who've been learning languages up to 7 years to kind of consolidate off that accumulation of everything they have learned in a place where they are really immersed in the language. And so I know there's been desire to do a capstone trip for years, but it's also looking at best practices across immersion schools is also commonly done. And so this year, as we think about how are we creating authentic real-world Chinese languages experiences, we thought of why don't we pilot a capstone trip this year and see how it goes. But also knowing that it's not something we want to happen in isolation. This is actually this desire of having students be more engaged with an authentic real-world experiences is something that we want to do at every grade level. And we want to make sure as we do that, that students are really practicing their Chinese speaking and listening skills with Chinese speaking community members. And so next school year, all of our teachers are going to be engaging in a process where thinking, at kindergarten, what does this look like in an age-appropriate way? Maybe it's when you go to Chinatown and maybe it's asking one or two sentences with a vendor, right? I'm just making that up. Maybe Chinese kindergarten teachers are going to land on something else. But we're going to look at this and how it builds across the years and how it scaffolds. So this is our overall vision. This is our success criteria that we're going to be engaging with students and our current 5th grade parents as to how will we know if this trip is successful? How will we know if this is something that we want to make more of a permanent part of our grade 5 immersion experience? And here are some of the criterias. I actually visited this, sorry, let me back up a little bit. So when we first proposed this, we were like, okay, maybe we'll get 15 students excited about this and we'll try it out as a pilot trip. We ended up with 36 interested students and families, and so we'll be going at the end of May. And I actually went and visited the site, the different sites that we're going to this past weekend, just to make sure, you know, everything is feels good, everything feels safe. And so we will be partnering with the Hutong. We're going for a 5-day, 4-night trip. And our big main goals is language immersion. So there's plenty of activities where students will be engaging, interviewing community members. We'll be doing a school exchange where we'll be working and getting to know other students who are at 5th grade. The school we're visiting is a school in Beijing, and they a lot of the students come from migrant families, right? We'll also be exploring the Great Wall, but our main thing is there are lots of opportunities for students where they a lot of times have been speaking Chinese in the classroom. Now it's like, okay, how can I use my language skills to actually speak in a more organic, dynamic way? The price currently is around $2,000, but there are full and partial scholarships available. But yeah, this is what we are piloting this year, and at the end of this year, after the trip, we'll be engaging in just like some feedback to figure out is this something that makes sense for our program long term? Is there anything we need to shift? Is there anything we want to change, we want to keep, right? And so in August, we'll have better clarity whether this pilot trip will be part of our 5th grade experience. But if you have questions about it, I'll also send this out. There's a link, but if you want, there is a landing page with more information about all the safety protocols and so forth. At the bottom of that, there will be a Q&A, a feedback form if you have questions. If you have things that come up, you want us to make sure we address, there's also a place to do that. So this brings us to the end of our coffee. I know we talked about lots of different things, but would love to hear from you. If there's any questions we can help answer or anything that you're wondering about.
Hi, thanks for that. Can I just trouble you to just go back to the slide that just shows the summary of the middle school pathways? Yeah. I just want to, this is a very basic clarification. So have I understood this correctly, that as far as grades 4 and 5 go, the right-hand side, I mean, the extreme right track is not really applicable because you just either have the intermediate high or now you've introduced the CLA in the 45 minutes world language. Am I correct?
Because the right side is what's happening in your child's language arts block in immersion classrooms right now. So right now, for a third grader, they would go to the Chinese language arts block and get their reading writers workshop in Chinese. We have replicated that in middle school, so this course on the right side replicates the experience that they're getting with their Chinese elementary immersion teacher. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so at the moment in middle school, you don't have that on the right side.
We do.
Oh, you
yeah,
do? Okay.
Yeah, we're already offering it.
So what's the change? The change is simply the fact that this 145 minutes session for world languages will now be broken up in this way?
So the change for elementary or the change for middle school?
Well, both. But I mean, if you're
Yeah.
a grade 3 parent today, the imminent issue for us is grades 4 and 5.
Yes. So the change is instead of going to a foundational skills class taught by an elementary immersion teacher, you are going to a world language class taught by one of our world language teachers to continue to get your skills developed. So we're substituting the skills block class that used to happen in the afternoon, separate from their regular language arts block, with the world language and pushing that back into the morning part. Does it make sense now?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, good. Okay.
And then you've got the way that a child gets put into the world language class just for that 45-minute
Yes.
session is based on how you explain this sort of streaming there.
Yes.
But that's only for that 45 minutes block. And then if you're a kid just doing standard immersion and post grade 5 in middle school, you go to the right side for all practical purposes, I guess.
From what we've found is that about 90% of our students are placed on the right side. We have a few students in our immersion program that are truly, that have maybe been in school in China for the first 3 or 4 years before they came to Singapore, and so they actually going to the left side for a course that's more like a Chinese language arts course. If I were still in China, that makes more sense for them.
So I just have one
Yeah,
more question. I
you
don't mean
got
to
it,
hog up
please.
the room, but just on that point, so moving to the track on the left, is that, so you could have a kid, like in our case, we don't speak Chinese at home, obviously not of ethnic Chinese, but our son has been studying Chinese, since he was, 2 years old. And so is there any realistic chance that you have somebody like that going to that left side pathway, or is that really just not practical?
Absolutely, there is, if they have acquired language at that near native level. So we have, I would say the last 2 years, we've had 8 or 9 students go from grade 5 to grade 6 and be placed in that track and be quite successful. Yes, we do.
Good,
We
thank
just
you.
want to make sure, because in the left side, we are no longer teaching Chinese as a second language, right? And so for some of our students, they still need to be acquiring the language. On the left side, we're assuming you acquired the language and now you're just doing deep literature learning.
So is it done by teacher or somebody need to apply, like the parents apply for that one?
It's done by the teachers.
Okay.
We're a very deep assessment.
Hi, just to follow on to that. So let's say your immersion child next year goes into 4th grade and they're like intermediate low, for instance. Do they end up going into the right column, or would they ultimately probably be more in the middle?
For the last 2 years, we've had 0 immersion students that needed to go anywhere other than the Chinese language arts and literacy or the Chinese language arts.
But some of the students you're saying may be placed into intermediate low or the other ones and not the near native levels. But
For elementary, but with the time in world language and Chinese immersion, they should be fine by grade 6 to join. We've had very few students, and you wouldn't know if it was your child because they're probably
Okay, so generally we can assume that unless you are exceptional with your language skills, you'd probably be in, as an immersion child, be in the right path, right side path. Okay, thank you.
Just for the fourth and fifth grades, you're saying they'll go into the world language teacher. Is that with the actual English immersion students, or is this a separate class for them?
So you're talking about this right here?
Yes, so the new, instead of the foundational skills, you guys have replaced to go in the world language, so then is that with the English immersion kids who are going in that class as well? Or is it just the immersion kids are going and having a class by themselves?
Because it's placed on proficiency level, we could end up with a class that's mostly all immersion students with a new world language. Or it could be more world language students. It really depends on the proficiency of current students in grade 4 in world language and the needs of your child.
So it
vary.
is going to be combined.
It
You
is,
just
it
don't
is.
know how many, what the proportion is.
We won't know until we do the math and figure out.
Sure.
Can we go back to the high school page? Yeah, so after, what is the exit level that you, maybe if we go back to middle school and for a second, I start there. What is the exit level for each of the 3 columns? And then what's the exit level for each of the 3 columns in high school too?
Okay, so go back to your question. In the past years, we actually get a lot of data from the STEM testing and for student, all right, by grade 5 and also student in grade 6. And we are, based on the research we're getting from Act 4 to see how many years a student acquire a language from one level to another. So we are designing this course. So basically, if your student in grade 6 and 7, we're aiming for intermediate or high level. This track. This one. 6 and 7, we are exact target is intermediate high. And then when they come into grade A, some of them will be intermediate high still, but some of them will reach advanced low level. So when they enter into the high school, the 81 Chinese is actually advanced level. 81, 82, 83 are all advanced level, proficiency level and oriented. Okay? So I hope answered your question. Yeah.
Will you back up, Belinda? Because I think the other difference is that's important is in the Chinese language acquisition and literacy course, the exit target. Oh God, that was really loud. Sorry.
The exit targets for advanced low in grade 8 are in reading, writing, speaking, and listening. That is different than the Chinese as an additional language. We're assuming that students who are in this track were in middle school would not have been in immersion, right? And so when we look at like grade 8, let's say if I get to intermediate high 2 at grade 8, we're not expecting them to have that high level in reading, writing, speaking, and listening. In our students who are not part of the immersion program where they get this rich literacy experience every day, we're finding that their speaking and listening is at a higher level than their reading and writing, for about a whole level. So we typically see that being a little different. And that's why when we go to place your students, we're going to be really thorough, even in 3rd and 4th grade, to make sure we put them at the exact right level to challenge them.
And the reason why I also create this track is because we found your student learning language, the vocabulary bank is unique. For the world language student, as learning Chinese as additional language, their word bank is mainly fall into the social language. How to order ticket, how to say, order the driving, take taxi car, how to order lunch, so on and so forth. But for your case, since they already learned the language about Chinese, like social study, like Chinese science, so their language bank is expanded. It's more large vocabulary than the world language student in the academic language, as I mentioned, the social studies, science. So that is the uniqueness of why we create a unique pathway for you, because your needs is different from the world language, the traditional ones. So we can, when we having student, teachers recruiting, or when we have a curriculum design, we're considering this kind of background and incorporate as many as vocabulary your student learned into the new curriculum.
But then if we go back to that page with the 4 blocks, which is what the likely placements are, then the goal, I assume, because if you're expecting to funnel most of the kids into the far right for the middle school, that you would get all of these kids at their various levels up to what, like the intermediate high level by the time they're done with grade 5? Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, Tessa.
I had gotten some feedback from another parent who's a grade 4 parent right now about some of the topics that their kids are learning in school. Maybe it's a social studies thing. But I think they were going so deep into, I think, like animals or something like that, or insects or something that was very technical, and the child was not that interested in the topic. And I know the vocabulary will get more and more complex as they're learning about certain topics. So I was curious if that is something that you allow kids to choose what areas they want to focus on, if they don't want to get so deep on a particular topic they might not be interested in, or if they might want to get deeper into topics that are, what's going on, current events or anything like that.
They were doing insects in a world language class, something that they were doing in 4th grade, where they have to do like a deep dive of topics and then like write about it. Science, yeah. One of the classes where they would have, and so I think the feedback is that it's a topic the child wasn't that interested in anyway. It doesn't matter what language. So I think then delving into that with all the really technical vocabulary, it was a little bit. That does not sound familiar in one of our world language classes. It might be the near native class. So let us take that question back and dig it.
Or was it immersion? Okay, so that the structure of our immersion is they are learning content in Chinese. That's what's unique about our program. So they will learn academic science and social studies, academic language and content. That's just what our immersion program is. But what might be interesting to you is when they go to middle school, yes, we have these pathways, right? These are our world language pathways, but there's actually, maybe you can speak to it more, they also, if they want to keep up their Chinese, but they're not so interested in science vocabulary, there's Chinese electives, right? That might be more interesting while they still keep up that language. Do you want to share a few of the,
yeah.
the Chinese electives?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to know about electives, or you want to learn about that when next year when they're 5th graders? We can put a pin in it. Okay. Yeah. We developed a series of electives, really at the request of immersion parents, to say that our students are going to go from this 50% in grade 5 to clearly less time in a direct Chinese instruction. And so we've created a series of electives really based on student need and teacher passion. And so we have dancing, performing arts. Students will do things with music. We have a journalism. We have a media. What am I missing? Oh, we're going to start an art one that's painting, Chinese ink painting. But students can choose those as one of their electives. And the students are really enjoying it. We will have another performance coming up. I think we're going to be inviting some of our immersion classrooms to come up and visit so they can see. But it just adds more opportunities if they want to continue to practice their Chinese in a fun and engaging way that's a choice.
Any other questions? We'll be.
for our students. And I know the Office of Learning has invested significant time, resources in looking at the curriculum, how it aligns a bit more to, we hear this all the time, compared to our local resources, what the Singapore school does or what students, schools in China do. And so they have done that, and that's why they've restructured the classes. That's why when Amy said it's all 4 domains, reading, writing, speaking, and listening, that's the course that's structured for our immersion students. So that's why they're able to present today to share the changes with you.
Well, we'll be around for a bit. If you have more lingering questions, there's lots of food at the back. So thank you again for coming.